This is a very gentle mobility day that is designed to support your premenstrual and bleed phases. This one qualifies as an active rest day where you know your body and your mind might benefit from a little bit of movement, but you're not looking for anything too taxing or anything that is going to contribute to any symptoms you might be experiencing from PMS or maybe period discomfort. So this practice will guide you through some very gentle patterns to improve circulation, to open up energy pathways in the body, to clear any stagnation that might be present. That can happen during this transition time in the cycle when we see hormones drop off very quickly. You might find that your energy dips, maybe you're slightly low mood, and this can be movement medicine. So it's on those days where maybe you're not wanting your full-on workout or even a deload day, but you want something extra gentle that feels like rest. It feels like it's going to replenish your energy. So we have 20 different movements that we will move through about a minute each. So it's a 20-minute practice, and there's no warm up or cool down because it is sort of that warming pace the entire way through. No movement tutorial included. I'll guide you through the movements every step of the way so that your body is prepared in each one. And now we can get started with our workout. We are going to jump right into today's practice. Again, we have 1 minute continuous intervals. So we'll do each movement for about a minute and then transition to the next. So I will get our timer going. We have about 10 seconds to set up, and then we're moving into a reverse lunge to a sumo squat. So I'll guide you through. It's basically a step back, and then we're going to open to a sumo squat and then come out the way we came in. Let's begin. Step it back. You can circle the arms if you like, or just leave them out, whatever feels best. So we're stepping back. You can circle that arm into your nice sumo squat and then come back to center. Just switching, alternating here. This can be nice and slow. So I want you to kind of gently encourage that space in the hips. Nothing too urgent or too rushed. We're simply alternating side to side. So it's this pace that is very sustainable. You might get a slight elevation in the heart rate when we're working the lower body, demanding more from the legs, but otherwise you should stay in that nice, slow and steady pace. We have about 10 more seconds left of this movement pattern, and then we're going to hold that lunge with the left leg back. So next time your left knee is back, we're going to pause there. And we're switching now to kind of a lunge flow. So you'll kickstand your back shin slightly. If you need your hands for support, they're there. We're going to come back to a seat, and then we'll circle that leg around, sweep it behind, and then come back through center. The goal is to get there hands free so that you're coming through your lunge, lower back to a seat, sweep that leg behind with the knee bent, and then come back through. We roll forward, lots of space, find that deep lunge, come back to your seat, sweep it behind, and back to center. So breathing nice and steady through the nose this entire time. Find that fluid rhythm that helps you drop into more of a moving meditation. Coming forward. Again, if you need your hands for support, they're here, helping you each step of the way. We're getting internal and external rotation in the hips. Last one like this. And then we'll pause in the lunge. This time, kickstand that left shin all the way. Come up into your half warrior two. We'll let that leg straighten, let your hands come behind your head. From here, we're hinging at the hips. So bringing the hips toward that back heel, that left heel. Coming up, and then side bend. Elbow reaches to the side. Try to keep both sides of the waist equally long. So it's a hip hinge. We fold the body in half. Then we come up and bend to the side. As you're coming through that hip hinge, make sure head to tail move as a unit so they lower together and lift together. We breathe in through the nose nice and deeply. Try to lengthen both phases of the breath in and out so that you're getting that deep diaphragmatic breathing. that can also kind of turn on your rest and digest mode. So it can promote relaxation, can alleviate anxiety during this time in the cycle. Last one. From here, we're going to alternate between our supported side plank. So left hand comes down, right arm reaches overhead. To transition, we're going to trace the horizon, bend into the right knee, bring your right hand to the inside of right foot, sweep the left arm overhead. And then we sweep the horizon and switch. So we're just alternating between these 2 points. Nice and easy, opening in the hips, creating space across the bowl of the pelvis. Find that deep rhythm and notice in the supported side plank the sensation in the shoulder. I want you to try and create that as you come to the bent knee. So you have this spacious open quality in that top shoulder. I want you to see if you can recreate that with the knee bent. It takes a little bit more space, a little bit more openness in the hips. Last big breath here. And we'll come through center. So we're going to come onto the shins and we'll turn the knees to one side, feet to the other side. We're coming into the shin box movement. So here we are lifting the hips, sweeping the left arm up when your knees are to the right. And then we come through center, either hands supported or freestanding. And then we switch sides, sweep it overhead. So if you need your hands for support, they're coming behind you as you switch the knees and then taking that opposite arm overhead. The goal is to get to where you can do this without the assistance of the hands, where you're working the full mobility in the hips. We lift it up and come back through center. Keep the head and shoulders, chest elevated here. So rather than dipping forward, we want to stay nice and spacious in the upper body through this full range of motion. Lift it up, last few seconds here. Come through center. Now we'll switch back to our kneeling position, coming into a kneeling cat and cow. So once again, hands can come behind the head, and then we're going to round in. So bring the chin to the chest, round the upper back, and then slowly open up, press the head into the hands, broaden across the chest, really lengthen as opposed to bending. Round the body in here. And then slowly lift up, press your head into your hands to create space in the back of the heart. Finding the rhythm of your breath that feels best for you, maybe inhaling as you open and expand, and then exhaling as you round in. Start to articulate bone by bone. Can you feel that beautiful way that the spine can move? Just because the bones are independent, they have their own range of motion, their own mobility, and we're allowing that to be expressed here. Last one like this. And slowly come up. We'll take your left foot out to the side now into that half warrior two. We'll start with that leg straight. Bring your hands behind your head. We're hinging at the hips. So we bend back towards that right heel, lift it up, and side bend. Take the elbow out to the side. Find that slow, fluid pace that allows you to really move into a state of flow, and flow that is restful, flow that is replenishing, that is just kind of unlocking your natural source of energy. So we're not forcing anything here, but just allowing it to move through the body. This need not be your fullest expression in any of these postures, just kind of that middle effort that allows you to get the benefit without producing stress in the body at a time when we're less resilient in terms of resources. Now we'll switch. So we're coming to that side plank shape here, reaching the arm overhead. We'll trace the horizon, bend into that left knee, hand to the inside of left foot, sweep the right arm overhead. And then we trace the horizon, start to straighten that left leg, left arm reaches overhead. Alternating between these two shapes and carrying what you gain from the side plank, bringing that into the hip opener. So we have the long side waists here. We're carrying that now into the other side, trying to get that same expansion across the top shoulder with the knee bent. Reaching overhead, last few breaths here. We've got about 15 more seconds. So a few times back and forth. Again, the pace is slow and sustainable. And if you find a spot that feels so good, you can stay there for a few breaths. Coming back to center now. Turn over your left foot. We'll parallel the feet here. We're coming into that sit to lunge. So we sit back. We're going to sweep the left leg behind and then take it forward. Again, we're aiming to be hands-free, but don't sweat it if you need to use the hands to support the transition from one position to the next. So we're wrapping that around. Create lots of space between your feet here so you have that nice wide lunge as you come up to the top. As you take your knee behind, aiming to keep the torso as upright as possible, you'll naturally lean a little bit forward or to the side to accommodate that movement. But the less that you can move the torso, the more you're relying on mobility in that hip. So coming through internal rotation and external rotation. Last one here. Let's get one more like that. And then we'll come back up into our lunge. Hands touch the ground. Let's come into a tabletop position, shoulders over the wrists. Bring your right hand behind your head. Here, I want you to open the right elbow up and then wrap it under. See if you can keep your hips mostly square the entire time. So you're relying on upper back mobility now to create this range of motion. So the upper back can tend to get a little bit tight or a little bit immobile when we move the rib cage and the hips together always. But this pattern allows you to articulate those two structures independently. So you can move the ribs free from the pelvis. You can stabilize the pelvis and then get that beautiful stretch in the back of the heart here. Wrapping in and slowly open. We'll be here a breath or two more, and then we will switch sides. So take your right hand down, bring your left hand behind your head. Again, just gently open and round it in. So find that sort of barrel roll as you open up and then all the way around, come under. Again, the hips are staying nice and even, nice and square. They're not coming along for the ride with each rotation. But instead, you've got that fixed anchor point, and then you can move the rib cage, move the shoulders independently, the upper back independently. So we breathe in, open, expand the chest, and then exhale, let it out. Big breath here. We've got just a few more rounds of this minute, and then we'll transition to a bear plank position. So we're moving from tabletop to just hovering the knees, but know that you can always keep your knees down. If that brings the intensity a little too high, come to tabletop. You can always leave the knees down here. Otherwise, we're just letting the knees hover, and we're going to move through our kick throughs. So we take the bottom foot under, reach your top arm high, and then come back to center. Switch it out, really lift the hips and pull that top arm and come back to center. I'm going to demonstrate this from the side so I can get a little bit more range of motion without exiting the frame. So come through bear plank, step out and open. Feel that nice expansion across the front line of the body, almost like Wild Thing here, just allowing the chest to broaden and expand. Open it up, come through center. So find that nice reset point in the center and then expand out in all directions. Imagine someone pressing your top palm open and back to center. We're going to switch now to tabletop once again. We're going to reach the left leg back, touch your left toes down. And from here, we're simply sweeping that left foot out to the side and back to center. This time, it's your shoulders that are staying square. You want to keep your hips mostly square and only allow them to move as much as they need to accommodate the movement of the leg. So we're sweeping this nice quarter circle all the way around and all the way back. You'll feel a bit of core stabilization and also just getting that nice wide range of motion in the hip joint. Breathe in and out. We're here about 15 more seconds. And then we're going to switch to the other side. So get ready to transition. We'll exchange now the left knee for the right. I'm going to switch sides just to keep lots of space. And again, we're just sweeping the right foot now in that nice quarter circle. So square hips, and then allowing a little bit of movement to get that leg out to the side. So you want to avoid letting the hips tip too much to the opposite side. Just kind of that counterweight, that natural tendency to want to compensate. Instead, try to keep that left leg mostly fixed, and you're relying on your core strength and stability and the mobility in your right hip to allow that leg to move. Find the rhythm of your breath. If you've lost it, in and out through the nose where possible. Here, the shoulders again, nice and square. You're pressing firmly into all 10 finger pads so we're not weighting one hand more heavily than the other. And from here, we're going to switch to a scorpion with a wild thing. So I want you to keep your hands under your shoulders. You'll bend your left knee, open the hips. So stack your left hip on top of your right, and then press up through your right hand to come into a seated position. We lift up into wild thing, find that nice expression, come down, and then back through center. This time we bend the right leg, pop the right hip open, step the right foot down, press through your left hand, come into a wild thing, and then make it more fluid. So you come down and all the way up, lift through wild thing. Don't sweat it too much if this movement pattern feels awkward or new, just allowing your body to move in whatever way feels best for you. You can trace that position of your hand with your eyes, really arcing skyward and coming back down. Last one here, lift it up, and we'll slowly come back down. Now we are transitioning to our seat. So from a rolling to stand, we're going to roll onto the back, and then using your hands if you need to, or freestanding, come all the way up. Slowly lower down, roll onto the back, hands by your sides, and then lift up to stand. So again, this one working that sacred movement pattern, the simplest, but sometimes the hardest, which is to move from a seated position to standing. You can always use your hands for support if you need to. And just notice the mechanics of how you shift the weight from your seat to your feet as you come up. Last few seconds here. Roll on the back and come up. From your seat, we're coming into boat pose. So we're going to lift up into boat pose. You can always support the backs of the thighs. And then we're going to start with the left side. So we're going to sweep that left arm out and open, touch down behind you. Then we'll lower the knees, come into supported side plank. Lower down, use the belly to lift you back into boat. Now the other side. Sweep the right hand open, come onto your side, side plank. So we'll be between these two movements now, sweeping the arm open and arching the spine, finding that beautiful shape, that side bending shape. Sweep it open, lower the knees, stack the hips, stack the shoulders, and come back through center. Sweeping the arm, touch down, soft landings. Don't worry if it feels awkward or maybe you're losing your balance a little bit. That's okay. Come into side plank. Last one through center here. We're coming into our boat pose. And now we will lower onto the back. So from the back, we're coming into bridge reaches. So you want your feet to be directly under your knees. We're going to lift up into bridge, cross your body, reach to the opposite corner. Lower down, lift into bridge, reach with the opposite corner, or to the opposite corner. So you want to keep your hips square, and you're relying on the mobility in the upper back, in the shoulders, to make that reach happen. You might start to travel a little bit, so you can always adjust, bring your hips closer to your heels as needed, and then just reach side to side, up and back. Lifting up and stretching across. We are almost there here. We're coming into our T rotation next, one of my favorite postures. So we'll come through center. You want to take your arms out to a T, and we'll take the knees over to the right. So the key here is to keep both shoulders grounded. Find that nice deep twist, maybe gaze to the left, and really soften your belly, soften your low back. This creates a lot of kind of individuation of the hips and the rib cage. So your rib cage stays grounded, stays anchored, and then we move the legs. So we'll switch sides, come through center. Let's lower the hips to the left now. You can gaze to the right or straight up towards the sky. And again, breathe easy here. See if you can soften the belly, soften the lower back so that you are in the mode of receiving. So it's less force, just allowing things to flow, creating that nice massage in the low belly, promoting circulation there to support your healthy flow. From here, we're going to roll onto the belly, coming into crocodile pose first, where we will pillow the hands side to side, or pillow the hands under your head and windshield wiper the legs side to side. So just kind of nice and easy, freeing the sacrum here. And then keep your knees bent. We're going to come into Sphinx pose. So with the knees bent, this should feel like a lot of opening in the front line of the body, maybe even the lower back. Keep the thighs pressing down into the mat, and then drag your elbows back toward your hips. You might even make peaceful fists here. Broaden the shoulder blades apart and the collarbones apart, so you have this nice spacious quality. And then again, you can wiggle the feet, the legs side to side if you wish. And then we'll release the legs down, just come into full Sphinx. We'll close our practice with this very gentle back bend. You can roll the neck side to side. And then we will slowly take your hands under your shoulders, press up into tabletop first. Give your hips a little bit of a shake, release any residual tension in the low spine. And then we'll step one foot and then the other. Keep that nice generous bend in the knees, come into a supported forward fold, so just letting the head and neck hang heavy. Bring your hands to your thighs, lift halfway up. So just guiding the body each step of the way from that supine prone position all the way up to standing, so you can rise when you're ready. Let's enjoy a huge breath together. Inhale. And exhale, sigh it out, let it go. That is your very gentle, active rest. I hope it just unlocked a little bit of energy. Maybe you're feeling more clear-headed, a little bit more tingly in your cells, where you have more energy now to work with. We've unlocked a little bit of stagnation and kind of just allowed more pathways for energy to move through your body. So thank you so much for joining me, especially during this somewhat precarious time in the cycle. I so appreciate you being here. Thank you for letting your body be moved.